Welcome to another video for version 16 of WinBid Pro by GDS Estimating. In this one I'd like to talk about the tips and tricks for a butt glazed interior frame that has butt glazed verticals, and it could either have air gaps on the side or silicone on the side too, either way. And for that matter you could have air gaps in between panels of glass. But this is what it looks like. So we've got a continuous head and sill that has the glass pockets to accept glass. And you'll notice when I zoom in, I've got my gap for in between the glass. So that could either be air or silicone. It all depends on what part you want to include, basically. So to get it to do this, I want to do a few things. To start with, the continuous head and sill are key, so we need to check these options in this first settings window, settings tab. So has head receptor, has sill receptor, we need those checked. And then we go to components, and you'll notice I have no head assembly components and no sill assembly components. So that's assuming there's no snap-in kind of fillers that have to fill in between verticals, and our verticals aren't extending up into the head and sill receptors. So we're calling them head and sill receptors, but they're really just extruded continuous head and sills. So that's kind of a trick in the program to get this to work, is you need to not have a sill and head assembly, but you do need to have parts in the head receptor, sill receptor assemblies. So if we edit one of these, the next trick is we're saying the profile, which is the reveal of, in this case, the head receptor. And then we also need to say there's vertical trim. So that means that vertical gap that I have between panels, we don't want that to extend into the head receptor in this case. So we're saying we need to trim that vertical 2 inches so that it butts up against the head receptor. So that's all I'm doing here, and then I'm putting whatever part number I need for the head, whether it's a tube or it has some sort of open back filler or whatever it is. All those parts can be entered here, and you can either click here and start typing a part number, or you can click Browse List and search for parts here. And I like to just start typing something like, head receptor, and then it will show me what I need. So that's kind of how you want to populate these parts sections of the assembly windows. So that's an example. You want to do the same kind of thing with the sill receptor. It's a 2-inch profile, and there'd be a 2-inch trim, and that gives you that look where that gap doesn't extend up into the receptors. So the next trick was the glass bite. So that's more of a vertical and wall jam type of thing. So let's look at the SSG vertical, which I have here. I'm going to edit that. In this case, we could call it anything we want. We could call it butt glazed vertical. So that's if you're configuring a frame and you want to save it for later, you can name it something that makes sense to you. And again, ignore this detailed drawing. But in order for that air gap to exist between the glass, there's really no glass bite. So we're not adding anything to the daylight opening size for the glass. So we're saying there's a 0 glass bite on the left and right of each vertical. So that's another trick, but that's what gets us the gap in between the glass here. So the next step is doing the same thing for the wall jams. So in this case, I even named this one 0 left jam to tell me that it's got 0 bite, but you can name it whatever you want. So the profile, I did create or define a 3/8 profile because I wanted a 3/8 gap, whether it's going to be air or silicone. So that's why there's a profile here, but there is no glass bite, so the glass isn't going to extend into that 3/8 profile. So really that's the trick, is it's the continuous head and sill, it's the gap or the profile of the actual verticals, whether it's jambs or vertical mullions, and then no glass bite, because we want the glass bite to basically be the daylight opening between these vertical mullions. So that will give you the correct glass sizes. If you wanted to put a part number in for silicone, you could tell it that SSG vertical instead of nothing. We could say add a part for silicone, and I don't know if silicone is in this catalog here. Yeah, so let's just say we've got a silicone part. I add that. Now it's going to give me a kind of a stock length, pretty much measurement and price for silicone. So if I priced it, a tube of silicone goes 15 feet. It's kind of treating it like a 15-foot stock length. The only downside here is that silicone part is going to show up on your cut list. So eventually we're going to be able to have like a property for this part that maybe says don't show it on the cut list. But right now I think it's going to show up. So keep that in mind if you end up doing the silicone thing, so for a part. But that pretty much sums it up for how you would draw this opening and get your glass sizes to come out right, get your extrusions to come out right, and then if you do want pricing for silicone, you can add it into the assembly. That's it. Stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.